Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nimble Urban Survivor with me, your host, Nick Catelli. Hope you guys are having a good month, good day, good year, good something, because we have a really, really good show today. Today's inquiry comes from the Clubhouse app. If you don't know what the Clubhouse app, it's that audio-only app. Very cool. If you need an invite to the Clubhouse app, let me know. Contact me via my website at www.catellicomedy.com. We also have a club on there called the Nimble Urban Survivor Club that you can join and be a part of our live shows. But that's where this topic comes from today, because we were talking with a few people who wanted to be realtors and also some people who work as realtors. So we're going to talk about how to survive becoming and being a realtor. Because being a realtor, and this isn't even a joke, like I'm not even joking when I say this, it's a tough job. It's a really, really tough job because it's one of those jobs where it's like you don't make money unless the client buys or sells the property. And then what happens is that you will like show them like thousands and thousands of properties for like a couple of months, maybe even a year. And then they're just like, we don't feel like buying anymore. You know, So I'll give you a true story really quick. A realtor friend of mine a couple of years ago, he had a couple of clients like that. They wanted to buy a house. They were renting a place. And he says that he showed them everything in town, everything. And they didn't like anything. And he invested, his time, his energy, looking this up, driving them around town, showing them the properties. Because you got to remember, the realtors, they don't get paid for that, okay? And then he tells me that after almost what felt like a year, he said it was almost like 9 to 10 months, which is almost a year, is that the people decided that they just weren't interested in buying a house. So they stopped looking. And I guess they technically let him go as the realtor. I kid you not. He finds out 2 weeks later, they end up buying a house on their own at a property that realtor had showed them. So they totally fucked him over. So I feel really bad for realtors because they don't get paid unless they make the sale. Right? Or they get the person to sell their property. And it can take, months, years for these people to make these decisions. And you only get a small commission, right? I think it's like, what is it, 7%, I think? So if you're selling houses that are only in the six figures, 7% might not be that much. But I think the big illusion of being a realtor is that like in LA is that, you get a property that's like a $50 million house and 7% of 50 million. You're set for a couple of years. And I think that's like the big illusion there, but it's not that easy being a realtor. And there's a lot of realtors. Okay. It's kind of like stand-up comedy. There are a lot of stand-up comedians, too many. They're not that good. Kind of the same thing in the realtor biz. A lot of realtors, because I think they think that it's easy, but it's not. It's very difficult. It's a lot of work. So really, for all my listeners out there that are realtors, you have my respect. And this episode is for you guys. This is also an episode for people who are thinking about becoming realtors, because what we're going to talk about is, number one, we'll talk about how to become a realtor. What's the best methods, like creating your brand, things like that. And then we'll kind of move on to section 2, which is finding your clients, because that's a really important thing when it comes to finding your clients. And then by the end of the show, we'll kind of just talk about like selling methods, like ways to make the sale quickly. Because in this episode, I think I've really designed some sales techniques to where you can get some good, solid clients and sell or buy a house for them within, I want to say 4 weeks, maybe sooner, right? So I think we got some. So how to survive being a real estate agent, which is a tough job. Step 1 is you have to build your brand, right? I'm not talking about like you go get your license and you got your real estate license and it's for whatever area it is. We're not going to talk about that. You can just look that up on Google. I'm talking about creating your image, because really in reality, image is everything in the real estate market. Okay, you see those people with like the fancy suits and the pink ties and the faux hawk hair. Okay, that's a little over the top, all right? Because here's the thing: image is one thing, but people nowadays are obsessed with Yelp reviews. So what you're going to want to do first is obviously create a website and have your Yelp reviews. And don't let the Yelp reviews all be 5 stars, okay? They all have to be 1 star Yelp reviews. And let me tell you why, because you guys know how it is. Like if you look up like a restaurant or a business on Yelp, they might have 5,000, 5-star reviews, but you don't care about that. You just want to read the bad reviews. If you're like me, you always read the bad reviews. I could give a shit less about good reviews. I always just want to read the negativity, because that's the thing now with humans, especially in America, is that we are obsessed with reading bad reviews. We love the drama. We love the bad reviews. People will read those, right? If you have like 100 good reviews, no one will read those. They just won't, because they don't give a shit. But if you have 100 bad reviews and you're like me, you will read each one of them, because you're like, oh my God, I want to see the drama. I want to see the dirt, man. I want to see it. So you want to have 1-star Yelp reviews, because for some reason, like I feel like negative attention gets you better attention, right? I mean, look at President Trump. I mean, the man was like, media covered him like there was no tomorrow, because it was all just like negative attention. Same method here. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, because you're like, Nick, I don't want to give myself 1-star Yelp reviews, because then I have to write all these bad reviews about myself. No, I'm going to stop you right there, because I'm going to tell you how to write reviews that are 1-stars, okay? So here's a few examples of that. You want to give yourself a 1-star Yelp review, and the review should read something like this, like, oh my God, if I'm using myself as the example of the realtor, it would be like, oh my God, Nick sold my house too quickly, and now I don't know what to do with all of this extra time. I'm giving him a 1-star review because of that. Or another 1-star review would be like, Nick sold my house for too much money over the asking price, and I'm flush with too much cash, and I'm really confused on what to do with it. 1-star review. You see what I mean there? So the 1-star reviews in hindsight are almost like you're giving 1 star because he almost did too good at his job. 1-star review because Nick Catelli, the realtor, he had too many offers that were 50% over asking price that I had to deal with. 1-star Yelp review. Okay. And also remember, don't just throw in like client reviews. You want to make up some fake reviews of like other realtors that hate you. So it would be like John Smith Realty would give me a 1-star Yelp review. They'd say Nick Catelli took my client away from me and sold their house within 24 hours versus me who couldn't sell it within a 6-month span. So I'm giving him a 1-star Yelp review. Those are like the I'm jealous because he's so talented 1-star Yelp reviews. And those work really, really good. And people will read those, right? And then they're going to be interested. And they're going to be like, man, like I want to reach out to this guy. Okay, I want to see what this guy's like, because he's got such negative reviews, but they're such beautiful negative reviews. I don't know what it is, but that's like such a method now with brands. It's almost like you want to focus on the negativity. I mean, look at all those reality shows that like took off, like Jersey Shore, very negative show, about partying, getting drunk, being dumb, and banging random people. But people love it. That should be a method that should be incorporated when you're creating your brand as a realtor. You're not the bad boy realtor. Okay, I'm not telling you to be that, but I just mean like you're the worst realtor on the planet because you're so good. And that's the thing, is everyone hates you because you're such a good realtor. That is the method you want to do when creating your brand. Okay? So that's kind of just part one of it. Create your brand. If you want to create like a look or a style or something, you can do that too. I don't really think you have to invest a lot of money into that. I see people will do that all the time. Like they'll go out and they'll buy like a fancy suit and a tie and, buy a $1,000 haircut. And they kind of just come across as desperate. I feel like that's super desperate. So, with a realtor, I think you just go old school, do like khakis, button down, and get one of those like really colored blazers, like have a red blazer or a yellow blazer, because it just shows people that you're just a regular old realtor. And then when they read your Yelp reviews, that's what brings the clients in the door. So part one, give yourself really shitty Yelp reviews that people will read and see that you're really amazing. Now, part two is you got to get clients, okay? And here's the rookie mistake I see with a lot of realtors is they'll take anybody as a client, right? They'll take anybody. Even if they get a whiff that you might want to buy a house, they will take you on as a client because they want the sale. I think personally that is the worst, pardon my Spanish, fucking way to do it. because these people will string you along for months, maybe years, and still not buy a property. Or you'll have clients that they want to sell their house, but then they're just like so attached to their house. Like they'll have like a shitty 1 bedroom house that's probably only worth $200,000, but they think that it should be worth like $1 million because it was like their childhood home. Okay. So those people who get that like sentimental value, those are the worst clients in the world. But here's the thing, okay, is I know what you're thinking. You're like, Nick, how do I vent clients and find out which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones? Now, number one is the big rule, I think, in the Nimble Urban Survivor realty market is don't find clients, make clients, right? You have to find people who don't know that they should be selling their house. Okay. So a good way to find clients is you got to get them out of their house. Okay. And you got to really hit the pavement. Go to a neighborhood, walk around the neighborhood, find a house that you like, be an easy sell, really nice, good neighborhood, knock on the door. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to be in a suit and tie. And I would go black suit, white shirt, white tie, sunglasses. And when they answer the door, you just tell them that you work for a national security office and that their lives are in danger and they need to go into the witness protection program ASAP. Now, see what I did there? I didn't say that I was like a federal officer or Secret Service or FBI or CIA, because obviously you can get sued for that. All you have to say is you just work for a legal representation team or security team for the country, right? Just make it super generic, because they're not going to ask about that. Don't give them time to ask about that, because you're going to focus on you need to go in the witness protection program and get out of this house ASAP. And they're going to be like, well, what happened? And you're going to be like, well, supposedly the mafia thinks that they saw you, witnessing a crime, and now they want to, knock out your whole family because they don't want you guys to possibly go to court about it. Okay. Keep it generic, keep it broad. If they try to ask questions, rush them. Be very rushing, just focus on your life is in danger. You got to get out of the house. And then they're going to be like, well, what are we going to do about the house? That's where you whip out your card. And you're like, guess what? I actually have a twin brother who looks just like me, who is a realtor. Here is his card. He'll sell your house for you. Okay. But we need to get you people out of here ASAP. And what'll happen is they'll probably move out within 48 hours, and they're going to go to like another city or another state, or even sometimes if you're really, really lucky, they'll move to another country because they think that, they have to go into the witness protection program. Good thing about that is, number one, you have a super easy client because they really, really want to sell the house. Also, they're not there. So that's really good too. They can't get in the way of when you go into escrow and you're talking about get this fixed, that's broke, blah, blah, blah. They're not there to bother you, right? Because sometimes, as we all know in the realtor world, is that the client is their own worst enemy. And you just created a client. You see what I did there? Yeah, you create a client, right? So that's a good way. It's just you have to figure out ways of how do you get them out of their house? You could do the FBI thing. You could say that you're like a surveyor and that you think that a huge earthquake is going to hit this area within 2 to 3 years. I mean, just there's tons and tons of scenarios. I won't go into it because we still have a lot to cover in this episode. But if you just Google scenarios of how to get people out of their houses, there's a ton. Here's my one thing though: don't be violent about it. Don't show up with a shotgun or a baseball bat and try to threaten them. Okay, but that kind of brings me as a segue to my next point of how to make a client. Right. So let's say that it doesn't work on this family. You've told them there's going to be an earthquake, witness protection. It doesn't work like that. Okay, so you could go to other families and say I'm a realtor. I'd love to sell your house. And obviously what they're going to do is they're going to tell you no, because for some reason people have these, weird, I don't know, they just have these weird connections to their house. It's almost like they're banging their houses or something. They just don't want to leave them. I don't get it. So when they say no, here's what you say. You give them your card and you say, hey, I'm a pretty trustworthy realtor. Just Google my name and you'll learn a lot about me. Okay. And they're going to be like, interesting. I'm going to Google this guy. And when they Google you, they're going to find out, because you're going to have to create all of this. And the good thing is you should probably just hire a high school hacker website builder kid and just pay him with like non-alcoholic beer. Like give him a 6-pack of O'Doul's, and those kids will do anything for you. And again, that's non-alcoholic beer. Okay, we're not giving alcohol to kids. Don't give alcohol to kids. And that kid is going to create a whole bunch of fake news stories that says that you're connected to like the New York mafia. Okay, so this person who just turned you down and disrespected you is going to find out, oh my God, I just turned down like a connected mobster. Now I have to sell my house because I don't know what's going to happen to me. And I'm scared. So see what I did there? To create the client, I didn't threaten violence with them, but there is a definite hint of undertone of violence to me. And I feel like that works really good. I think that's really good. Now, that's just like 2 scenarios on how to get clients, aka how to make clients. Now, let's talk about if people come to you and they're like, Nick, I'm just using myself as an example. They're like, Nick, I want to sell my house. I want to buy, I want to buy a house, right? I want to sell and I want to buy a house. Here's the thing though. You don't want to take them on because they could just be stringing you along. So how do you find out if they're a real client or not? Well, I would say number one is have a meeting with them. And when you have the meeting, bring a thing of brownies or find out what they like to eat. You can just ask them, like, do you like cookies, brownies, cakes, cannolis, whatever, and bring those to the meet and greet. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to lace those with a truth serum. You know that truth serum that like the CIA uses when they're interrogating people and then they find out like where the terrorists are and where Osama bin Laden was? Same thing is that you want to do that in real time. Because here's the thing, guys. I know you're like, oh my God, that seems like such a bad thing. But for us realtors, that like you want to be sure that this client actually wants to buy or sell their house. Okay. So give them the truth serum. See what they say. I guarantee they're going to be like, well, we're kind of on the fence about it, but we just want to look at a bunch of houses and whatever strikes us, maybe we'll buy it. That's a bad client. You want the client who takes the truth serum and is like, no, I want to buy a house because I really want one and I have tons of fucking cash. Boom. That's a good client. So feel free to like vent your clients with truth serum. I think it's the best way. That's the best medical way because then from a sciencey medical standpoint that they're actually going to buy or sell their property. Okay. Now, some people have talked about using a lie detector. That is something you could use if the person is comfortable doing it. But the way you would have to do the lie detector one is you'd have to like talk to somebody who's a cop and then have them like interrogate them and just like make up something that they witnessed a crime or a murder and then kind of like slip that question in there. I'll give you an example. So if I'm the cop giving the lie detector test to the potential clients, I would say like, did you witness a murder on 3rd Street on Thursday at 3? They'd say no. Did you see anyone coming out of the store at blah, blah, blah? They would say no. Do you intend to buy or sell a house within a 1-month span? Yes or no? And then, obviously there's your answer. So you kind of want to just like sandwich it in there. But I really think the truth serum route is the best route to go. When it comes to getting that kind of stuff, I think you could just get it off like the dark web. Or if you have a buddy who works for the CIA, you could just ask him about it. But that's what you want to know because you want to know, like, just or the clients, they're just, these clients, like, are they going to buy it? Are they not going to buy it? You don't know. And it's really, really frustrating because they will take you on a roller coaster ride of bullshit and then they don't buy anything. Okay. So that brings me to our third part. All right. Because we talked about building your brand. We talked about finding clients. But let's focus on what the meat of this episode of Nimble Urban Survivor is going to be about. And that's going to be about how to make the sale. How do you make the sale, right? How do you sell a house quickly? What techniques work? And here's the standard I always see. Here's the rookie mistake. Is number one, they think that like they're going to sell like the neighborhood and the niceness and everything's great. And they're going to like set up the house and it's going to look really sweet and beautiful. And people are just going to like fall in love with it and be like, oh, Henry, this house is so wonderful. Or you'll sell that thing of like, oh, you guys could start a family here. Yeah. Rookie techniques. Okay. Doesn't always work. Not going to lie. So how do we sell properties? I think the big thing is you want to kind of take a page out of Hooters, okay, or Twin Peaks, 2 restaurants, very classy establishments, and they use the idea of sex sells. Okay. Sex can sell anything. So the first method of making a sale is sex sells, right? You go to Hooters and you go to Twin Peaks, not for the shitty chicken wings and the lukewarm beer. You go there because you're, checking out the girls, right? Because they're in bikinis. It's kind of like in Seattle. If you didn't know this, there's like a chain of coffee shops that are bikini coffee shops. They're literally just like young girls in bikinis that serve coffee. And the clientele, I would assume, is like 90% male, just because, you know how it is. Like if you get hint that there's a girl in a bikini somewhere and you're a guy, there's like a 99.9% chance you're going to check it out. Like I guarantee the men buying the coffee at the bikini coffee shops are not buying it because, like, you know what, these coffee beans are really good. They're hand roasted, Ethiopian, and very delicious. No, they're going like, man, I get my macchiato from there because I get to see them girls in the bikini. So sex sells. Now, how do we use sex to sell a property? Okay, that's all in the showing. Now, I'm not telling you to get into a bikini or to get into a Speedo, okay? Because obviously a lot of us realtors, we're not in the best shape. Like I have a dad bod. People don't want to see me. I have a very hairy, manly body, okay? Don't want to see that. So how do you use sex sells? And I don't mean like put up pornographic photos and things like that in the house. Don't do that. That's a rookie mistake. Some people get freaked out by that. You kind of want to go like the soft core hinted porn route, okay? Just like Hooters and Twin Peaks. Like the girls aren't naked, okay? They're still covered up, but you can see to where your imagination kind of like fills in the gaps. All right. And then what happens is when your mind is focused on, what does this person look like naked? That's when you slip in the sale of like, you should buy this house. And your mind is so distracted by the sex is that you'll buy anything. Okay. Because that's true. Like if you're having sex and someone wants to get something out of you, boom, there's a 90% chance you're going to say yes. So in this scenario of the sex sells, what you want to do is you want to set up the showing of the property, right? And people are going to come over to look at it. And when they come over to look at it, you're going to want one girl and one guy. Very beautiful models. You can probably hire them off Craigslist, whatever. There are agencies. Have them be in bikinis. Have the male be in a Speedo. Make sure he's got a really good, you know what I'm talking about. And they're very classy, beautifully classy. Like these, they're not slutty. They're beautifully classy. Like if they were in Italy, they would be making statues of them out of marble, in Rome. That's kind of the look you want to go for. Very chiseled, very fitness, gives enough to the eye, but still doesn't reveal everything. Go classy with this. We're talking classy sex. Okay, we're talking Playboy style sex here, not hustler, Playboy style. So then your potential buyers will show up at the property. And when they do, you give them, a chance. You go, would you like this person or this person to show you the property? Would you like the girl in the classy bikini or the man in the classy European Speedo to show you the property? They will pick one. That is the person that will flirt with them and show them the property. Okay. Also, really, when you're thinking about this, you should probably just go to Hooters or Twin Peaks or the bikini coffee place and just hire one of those people to do this for you. When it comes to hiring the men, you know what? I would go with the gigolo because I find gigolos are very suave, very smooth talking. Because obviously when women hire male prostitutes, they don't just want sex. They want like a whole like story and, they want the suaveness and the kisses and the romance, the James Bond style of intimacy. Okay. And then you're going to have those people like show them around the house. And by the end of it, they're going to be so like engulfed in the sex and the flirtiness that they'll buy anything. And that's the sex sells method, is that you get sexy people, sexy Italian Playboy-esque people to show the property, and the people are so distracted by it, just like when they're at Hooters, that they will buy anything, right? Because if you took the girls away from Hooters, like guys aren't going to buy anything from there because the food is like subpar. People aren't going for the food for those places. So sex sells, okay? That's one method. The next method, I would say, is the blackmail method. Okay, so when you have potential sellers and buyers, right, you need to have leverage above them. And I'm not talking like do your researches and just like Google their name and see what comes up. I mean, you need to go out and hire like a PI that can find stuff about them from their childhood that you could use against them, so that if they back out on the sale or if they want to back out on selling their property, you can just use that against them. So then it's like, well, do I buy or sell, or do I have this information get leaked out on the web? So I know that the blackmail method, a lot of people are like, oh my God, Nick, that's kind of a mean way to do it. But yeah, but from a realtor standpoint, realtors have been so screwed over by the clients. It's time for the realtors to strike back. So the blackmail method, I think, really, really, really works. Okay. Now, the third selling technique is what I like to call is the lock them in with a hidden contract to purchase technique. And so what this is, because we've all been there, or I guess all the realtors have been there, is you'll have people that come and like look at your property, and then they'll like want to use the bathroom. Have you ever had that? Like people, I'm like, are you really here to buy this fucking place? Or are you just here because your husband has to take a dump or a piss? And this is the way he gets it for free versus, like when you go to like a Starbucks or something, you got to buy a coffee to use the bathroom. That happens a lot. And I guarantee realtors will say like, man, I knew these people just came to look at this property because they wanted to use the bathroom. Okay. And I hate those people. I don't like those people. Those are like the people who just go to Costco. They don't buy anything, but they eat all the free samples. They don't even have a fucking membership. Like, fuck those people, right? They're just using you. So how do we fuck those people right back over? Well, we make them buy the property. And this is a good time right now because if you didn't know, to look at a property, because we're in the middle of like COVID and vaccines and all that. But if you want to look at a property right now, you have to sign like a contract that says that you won't sue the realtor if you contract COVID. So it's like a liability waiver form, which makes sense to me, right? It makes sense. Like if you really, because a lot of the viewings right now are virtual, but if you want to see a property in person, you probably should have to sign like a liability waiver so you can't end up suing anyone if you get COVID. So the good thing about that and what you want to do is you want to kind of use that method of putting like hidden language in there. Okay. So obviously, I think right now the standard COVID waiver forms, it's like 1 page or sometimes it's like 2 pages. Depends on what state you're in. Find out what that is. And then just add like an extra 25 pages onto it because they're not going to read it. Nobody reads contracts. Like when Apple does like their updates and they have like these are our new terms, like read them and agree to them. I've never read those in my life. I have no clue even what I'm agreeing to. I might have signed away like my soul or my firstborn son. Like I don't know what I'm signing. Same method you want to do here. Okay. So let's say a couple is like, we want to look at this property and it's just, obviously the guy just wants to go to the bathroom. And when a guy wants to go to a bathroom, or a girl wants to go to the bathroom, and there's like clear signs, they're grabbing their crotch, they're dancing around, they can't sit still. They show up to your open house and they're like, we'd love to look at this house. Clearly they're not there to look at the house. They're there to use the bathroom. So before you let them in the door, you tell them like, you have to sign a COVID liability contract. Obviously, you know how it is. Like when you have to go to the bathroom, you will sign or do anything because you have to go to the bathroom. So they will sign that piece of paper. And you have the hidden language in there that says, if you use the bathrooms in this house, they have to buy the house or they get fined $100,000. Their choice, buy it or get fined $100,000. And remember, they legally signed that. And you're a witness to that. Also, you should have another person there, like an assistant, to also be another witness. If that assistant is also a notary public, that's even better. Okay? So you have them sign it. And then, obviously, you keep an eye on them. You show them the property. They use the bathroom. Or they ask you if they can use the bathroom. Don't say yes. Don't say no. Just kind of slightly nod your head of like, you're hinting that maybe. Okay. Because here's the thing. If you tell them that they can use the bathroom, then legally it's like you kind of like locked them into it and you force them. And I guess in a court of law, they could say that like, oh, Nick Catelli forced me to use the bathroom, blah, 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 right? So you can't legally tell them that, yes, they may use the bathroom. Just do that thing where you kind of just like nod and gesture and it's real generic. And they'll just take that because, Americans, we're selfish people and we're very self-absorbed. So we'll just probably take that as like, oh, yeah, he said I could use the bathroom. When in reality, you just made a random gesture that can mean anything. Okay. So from a legal standpoint, they can't sue you. They use the bathroom. And then, as you know, after they use the bathroom, they mysteriously are like, oh, we're done looking at the property. I guess we'll go. We'll let you know. Here's the thing. when they think they're going to leave after just fucking you and leaving, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to just bang you for your bathroom and then leave. You're like, you signed a contract that said that if you use my bathroom, you have to pay me either $100,000 or buy this property. And they're going to be like, what? They'll try and argue with you, but you have a witness. You have a signed contract. They're legally obligated to do it, okay? So they're either going to buy the property or they're going to give you $100,000. It's a win-win. Yes, they could try and take you to court for that, but they probably won't because they don't want to pay all the fees and get a lawyer and do all that crap. And, and nobody wants to go in front of a judge and be like, I signed a contract without reading it, because that happens all the time. The judge will never rule in your favor, especially if you're an idiot that signed a contract that said, if I go to the bathroom, I'm going to buy a house. Like if I was the judge and I was like, why would you sign that to begin with? Are you stupid? I would rule in favor of the realtor. So that's another great selling method, is the toilet contract COVID method. Lock them into that contract, because then they gotta buy it, baby. And it works. Okay, next method. Use I have a rare illness, and this could potentially be my last sale, and I need to sell this house to cover my funeral costs. It's kind of a sympathy thing. You might have to practice it a few times. Come up with a monologue. Have it be a rare disease, though. Don't do that thing where you're like, I've got cancer or hepatitis or something like that, and it's going to kill me. It's a rare disease. I can't go into it. It's just too rare, but I got to sell this house. This could potentially be my last sale. You, too, could potentially be my last clients. And I want to sell you this house as my last dying wish. I want to sell you this house, okay? If you want to even add on to that, you could go hire a kid who, they do like the Make-A-Wish thing. This might be really bad, but if you have to do it to make the sale, you got to make the sale, right? And the Make-A-Wish kid could be like, my wish is for you guys to buy this house, from this realtor or my daddy. I would go the daddy or mommy route. That kind of helps too. So that's kind of a quick sale method, is the I have a rare disease method. But again, don't tell them you have cancer. Because what will happen is they're not going to buy the house. Now they're going to want to use their money to like help you, and charities and all that stuff comes into play. It gets really, really messy. So rare disease method. I have a rare disease. Buy this property. It's my last dying wish. Please, I need the money to, pay for a funeral so I can have a nice burial plot. If not, they're just going to char me, put me in a coffee can, and throw me out into the ocean. And that's not going to be good for anyone. Okay? The other method you could do, this is another quick one, is hire a kid to be your son and pretend like you're on the verge of becoming homeless if they don't buy the property. It's kind of like that Will Smith movie where, remember, he was like homeless and became like a stockbroker or something, and he had to become a stockbroker, become home. Same kind of idea here. They come in the door and be like, oh man, you guys, I'm not gonna lie, if I don't sell this property, man, me and my son, we're gonna be living out of a tent, under a bridge somewhere, and we just got to make the sale. If we make the sale, I could get my mortgage back, and I can get my son back in the school. Please, 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 you got to buy this house. So that works too, the I'm going to be homeless method. If you don't buy this house, I'm going to be homeless and you're going to ruin my life. Okay. I don't know if that really works in New York or LA, because people out there are kind of heartless and they really don't give a shit. This might tug more at the heartstrings of like Midwesterners, maybe Southerners, Northerners, people like in Iowa, Missouri, Idaho, that buy into stuff like that. Again, I don't know if the sympathy techniques of selling homes works in New York or LA, because a lot of people just don't even have hearts. So how do you make a quick sale to people in New York and LA? Well, if you know people in Manhattan and Los Angeles, because those are kind of the two cities I'm talking about, all they care about is being celebrities, right? So you have to use that as a realtor to your advantage. And I don't mean like say that the house was owned by a celebrity. I think that's a turnoff, because nowadays people just want to be famous just to be famous. And so you need to use that to your advantage, right? So like when someone comes and looks at a house, first of all, set an over-the-top price, okay? So if you're in LA and you're selling like a 2-bedroom house in Studio City, which is the Valley, typically that might just be like $100. No, that'll typically $100. Yeah, that'd be fucking amazing. It'd be like $1 million, maybe $1.5 million. You juice it up to 20 million. Okay. And then, these people are going to come and look at it. And 80% of the time, LAians like want to be famous. They just want to be famous. And they don't even they're not famous for anything. Okay. But if you get a whiff of that, and you will, because they'll be divas and they'll be smart asses and they'll probably dress in clothes they can't afford, use that. And you'll say, oh my God, I think I've seen you guys on social media. You're like kind of famous, because everybody's on social media, and they're not going to stop you. Even if they have 100 followers, they're going to be like, yeah, I am kind of famous. And you're gonna be like, you know what? I know that this house is listed at 10 million, but just because I would love to have some celebrities live in the neighborhood, I'm going to knock the price down to 2 million just for you, because you guys are celebrities. And I kid you not, 90% of the time that works, because people who think that they're celebrities are so shallow and so self-absorbed. You can use that against them. And that's the key, is that we want celebrities to live in the neighborhood. And that's why we're going to sell it to you. I'm even going to take it off the market right now and give it exclusively to you and give you a celebrity discount. Because you know how social media people are today, right? They're all about getting the freebies on Instagram and the discounts for products and shit like that. Same thing for a house. You just set a ridiculously over-the-top price, and then you just sell it to them for, the real price, but they think that they're getting a social media celebrity discount because they're fucking stupid. And that works. I don't know why I got really dramatic there with the low. I was doing it for dramatic effect, because we have to make the sale. So, which brings me to my next selling point is, how do you sell a house that is haunted? Because I think that's a real thing. If you're selling a house that's haunted, I think you have to really tell people that the house is haunted. And for some reason, a lot of people are turned off by that, by having ghosts in their house. Okay. So let's talk about, who do you sell ghost houses to? You have to go after lonely people. You have to go after people that have no friends, that tried to do a 90-day fiance thing. And, that even the 90-day fiance was like, I'm going to cut this down to 3 days because I don't like you. So I feel like that lonely people are the best clients for haunted houses, because they're going to be like, well, why would I want to live in a haunted house by myself? Dude, you have guaranteed roommates that are ghosts. Because if you know how really, really lonely people are, it's they'll take anybody as their friend. And obviously they get into abusive relationships, which isn't good, right? They'll meet someone who just fully takes advantage of them. And that's not good for anybody. That's not healthy. That's not a really good relationship. But buying a house that's haunted with ghosts, I mean, think of it. You could get a ghost like Casper. And that's awesome. Casper the Friendly Ghost is your roommate. And here's the best part. If you're a lonely person, he can't leave. Because if he tries to leave the house, I think he heads towards the light and then goes to heaven or hell. He goes to the other side. I think that's what they call it. I'm going to credit my buddy. There's my buddy Rick on Clubhouse. I'm going to give him credit for that. He explained that to me, is that when the ghost leaves the property, they head towards the light. If they open any doors to leave, that's, I'm heading towards the light, and they go to heaven or hell. So Rick, thank you for giving me that information. Rick from Clubhouse, really awesome dude. So that's the cool thing, is ghost houses, you want to sell those to lonely people, because then they have a guaranteed roommate. And that's the big sell, is look, if you buy this house, there's a ghost here. There's a couple of ghosts. You live with ghosts. You have roommates now. And they can't leave you, because you know what it's like when you have roommates. Your roommates can easily just move out and leave you, and then leave you alone. Ghosts can't leave. So there you go. I know that's a struggle for a lot of realtors. I think I just came up with a genius, solution. Sell the haunted houses to lonely people, because they have guaranteed roommates that can't leave them. Also, they can't harm them, right? You can't harm a ghost. So that's a good, if they're a creepy, lonely person and you think that they could potentially hurt people, they can't hurt ghosts. So it works out for everybody. So that's what you do in that case. Now, how do you sell a property that has had someone die in it? Because that's also a struggle too, is that you have to legally, I think if someone dies in the property, I think you have to tell them, if they've died within a few months or a few years, that someone has died in the property. Okay. And it happens. All right. But people will try to use that to their advantage to get a discount or to lower the price. Yes, some of the blood on the walls might be difficult to get off. But you know what? Easy solution. Just paint the whole wall a delicious red color. Okay. But when it comes to people dying in their homes, it's usually most of the time, and I've done my research, it's mostly old people who just lived in the house for the longest time, and they just passed away. They had a heart attack, or they just passed away. They were like in their 80s or 90s, and it was just natural causes. If it's something violent, like you find out people got murdered here, I wouldn't sell that house. I would just turn that house in like a side attraction, and then charge people money to like come see the murder house on 123 Fake Street. Mwah! Probably make a lot of money there, and then tear it down, turn into a strip mall. Hopefully, a Starbucks moves in. But if you find out that someone was older, passed away in the house, use that when you're selling the house, right? Because people are like, well, I don't know if I want to buy a house if a 80-year-old man had a heart attack here. Here's my answer to that. Well, he lived a long, full, healthy life. I mean, the average lifespan, I think, for an American nowadays is like 70. That might be dropping down to like retirement age just because of all of the stress of like what's going on right now. But that's the selling point. This house is the fountain of youth. I mean, this man lived to be almost 100 years old in this house. You could do that too. So I think that ironically, selling a house that has had someone die in it, it's good to sell it to like a hypochondriac, like someone who thinks that they're always sick and they're always going to die. Because it's like, look, this guy died. He died when he was like 110. Also, juice up the age. Like if the old person died in the house and they were like 89, juice it up to like 110. Just do it. Like they're not going to know because the person's dead. So who are they going to check with, right? So you're going to be like, look, he lived to be 110. That could be you too. This house creates that synergy and that energy and that karma of long, healthy living life. And that can do the same thing for you. So that's kind of a good selling point. Is the best clients for a house where someone has died in it is a hypochondriac. Because the selling point is if you buy this house, you could live as long as 110 years old. And I guarantee they're gonna buy that house. And it's as easy as that. All right. One more thing we're going to touch on here is house flipping. Okay. Because I know there's like some people out there who like to flip houses, right? They like to like go and buy a house. But it's kind of a nightmare to get the house because, you got to compete with like foreclosures, auctions. You're trying to buy a house from the bank. And you know how it is. It's like vultures, right? Like, they have like thousands of realtors savoring to buy like a foreclosed property. And even after you buy it, after competing with all these other realtors, are you really making a lot of money after you've bought it, updated it, and sell it? No, sometimes you're just making peanuts. You might invest like hundreds of thousands of dollars and then, only come out with like 50 grand. And remember, the government taxes the shit out of that. Okay. The government does. If you didn't know that, when it comes to flipping houses, I believe that the government will tax the shit out of it, like a gift tax. So yeah, you might have made 50 grand, but you might be paying like 30 grand in taxes off that. So really you get peanuts, okay? So how do you flip a house and get maximum value? The rookie mistake is going to the foreclosures and the short sales and the auctions. Don't go that route. Let all the other idiot realtors, be like the vultures who, fly around those properties and get them. You want to use one of my early methods on how to get a client, right? Like, go back to the beginning of this episode and listen to, how to get a client, right? Get the people out of their house, sell the house. Now, if you want to flip it, I know what a lot of people do is they're like, oh, I have a budget. And we're going to like update the bathrooms and the kitchens and do all of this work. And guys, that will spend money and time and years in construction. And the worst thing is, too, I mean, you guys have seen all the reality shows. It's like they always find problems, right? Like the pipes have like homeless people living in them or something like that. Or there's termites in the wood. Like it's a nightmare. And you don't want to open up that Pandora's box because then you have what's called like a money pit, right? You're just pumping money into refurnishing the house. So what you want to do when you're flipping a house, number one, don't make any sort of cosmetic updates at all. You want to make temporary cosmetic downgrades to the house, okay? So let's say you get the clients out of the house. You get the house, right? It's a pretty decent house, okay? Then what you want to do is you probably want to go to like your local community college or your local high school theater program. And you want to get like the tech kids, right? They like build the scenery and the walls and the props and all that crap. And you can pay them in O'Doul's because, you can always pay high school kids in non-alcoholic beer because, or that or Chipotle. I think they really, really like Chipotle. And what they'll do is they will design for you like fake sets that you can just bring in and put up against the walls that make the house look really, really, really shitty. Okay. And you like cover up all of the niceness in this house. So now the house looks like a real shit box. Okay. And then you take all of your pictures. And these are going to be all of your, your before pictures, like before we updated the house. So you're taking pictures of this, high school crappy scenery that makes the house look like make that house look like a real fucking shit show. Okay. Take all your photos, make them look really, really shitty. And then just have the kids take all of that stuff out. Because really, in reality, when it comes to the downgrade and the scenery building, you just need it for the photos. You can also, if you really want to add on a magic touch, is do one of those virtual walkthroughs of a before. I would do that because then you're really, because, people are like, well, you Photoshop this. No. Like, we're doing a virtual walkthrough. Also, don't Photoshop this shit. Like, you need to really, really build it because nowadays people can really tell between Photoshopping and real. Like, if they might see one of your photos and they might like take it to like a hacker or an expert, and that person can determine if you just Photoshopped in the shittiness. You can't do that because that's a whole legal thing that you can get in trouble for and get arrested for. So make sure real scenery built shit. Make it look like a real fucking dump. Take your photos, do your virtual walkthrough, have the kids, take all that stuff out, give them the O'Doul's, and then tell them to burn all that stuff and have like a bonfire party while drinking the non-alcoholic beer. And they'll do that. Kids are the best route, especially high school kids, because they won't ask questions and they love to burn stuff. And they'll just do it. They'll do a bonfire and beer, and it's going to be great. And then you take your after pictures. These are the so-called wink, wink, after you've made all of your updates and renovations pictures, which is actually in reality just you didn't change the house. It's the house that you bought. And you're literally just selling the house as is with its original stuff that's not been updated. But now technically compared to those shitty photos, it's a new and improved updated house. And that's the big selling point because the shittier the before photos are, the better. That's the goal in flipping houses. I don't know why people don't realize that. Like when you're flipping a home, it's not about the updates. Nobody gives a shit about the updates. It's about how shitty was this place before. Because the shittier it is, that just increases the illusion how much better it is now with the so-called, flipping. And the good thing about that, low cost. I mean, if you're getting, shitty high school, fake, temporary, it's beer. You're paying beer money. I don't know how much a six-pack of O'Doul's is or, how many kids you get. You might give them each a six-pack. You're probably only going to spend like $100 max. Whereas in some people, when they flip houses, they spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you've just, using the Nimble Urban Survivor Realty Flipper method, you've probably just made a cajillion bucks. Maximum value. Because nobody wants to waste time making all of those updates. Okay. So I think we've covered everything when it comes to selling, getting the client, and doing all of that. Okay. Now let's talk about one last thing. What if you have a client and they buy or sell, but then they want a refund? Which I think you can technically do that. Like you have a short period of time where you can say I don't like this, or something happened, or I want my money back, or you shouldn't have been paid your commission. Okay. Now, if you get an inkling that these people are going to do that, you need to leave town immediately. Because once you're done with the clients, don't do that thing where you're friendly with the clients and you become their best friend. Because people will do that. I've been to a party one time and I was like, oh, how do you know, John Smith? Oh, I was his realtor and we just became friends. I'm like, you became friends with your realtor? He wanted to become friends with you? I think that's kind of weird. And from a realtor standpoint, you don't want to waste your time unless they're bringing you more potential clients. That's a whole different story. Then, yeah, be their fucking friend forever if they're, constantly giving you, tons and tons and tons of clients. But don't be their friend. If you think that they're going to want their money back or something like that, what you're going to have to do then as a realtor is change your identity, get some plastic surgery, move to a different city, different state, fake your own death. That's the best way, because then they can't get their money back if you're like, well, he's dead. So, you can't contact him. Very rare, I think that happens, because obviously you're vetting your clients like we've talked about in this episode. But if there is an inkling that you think they might want their money back or something like that, or a refund, or they don't want the house and you already have the money, fake your own death. Because nobody can debate that. If you just run out of town, obviously they'll try and find you. But if you fake your own death, you're dead. How can they can't get the money back now? And then they're going to look like real assholes if they're like, well, we want our money back. You want money back from a dead man. Wow. How shallow are you people? Obviously, I won't get into the details of, how to fake your own death. I think we've talked about that in some previous episodes. But that's something you might be able to just like Google that or watch like a movie or something where a lead character did that. Use that same method, right? But but once you make the sale, get the fuck out of there. Get out. The minute the ink is dry on those documents and they own that, you give them the keys and get the hell out of there. You disappear because you don't want to, obviously you don't want to give the money back. And guys, I think that's our episode today. Wow, what a good episode. This is a long episode today, but I think we have a lot of really good information for potential realtors. If there's a lot of realtors out there who are kind of, getting affected by COVID and they're not able to sell properties, use some of these methods. Give them a go. What's the worst that can happen? You sell the property. And during these times, like I think buying and selling properties, it's kind of hard because not a lot of people are selling or buying right now due to COVID. So hopefully maybe by this time next year, like the market will pick up. But I really do think on the Nimble Urban Survivor, we really figured out how to like kickstart the real estate market when it comes to buying and selling. Because, people are always like, they blame the realtors. But in reality, it's like, no, it's the clients. The clients are the ones who ruin the sale, not the realtor. So guys, that's our episode. Thank you for joining us on the Nimble Urban Survivor. Also, I want to give a shout out to Dewey Woods, the host of the Uninvolved podcast. If you didn't know, he was a realtor for the longest time, and he was giving me some of his techniques. So some of the things we talked about on the show today, I'm going to credit Dewey Woods with that, of the Uninvolved podcast. Very, very funny podcast. Very, very funny guy. You can check him out at www.uninvolvedpodcast.com. Again, uninvolvedpodcast.com. Very funny. Dewey, thank you for your realty expertise in helping me with this episode. Great guy. Very funny show. Check it out. Guys, again, thank you for tuning in to the Nimble Urban Survivor. I feel like we did a lot of good for the real estate market. You're welcome for that, by the way. Remember, if you ever have something you want to talk about or you want to be a guest on the show, feel free to reach out to me at my website at www.catellicomedy.com. We're also on the Clubhouse app. We do have a Nimble Urban Survivor group on Clubhouse. So if you ever want to be a part of a live show on Clubhouse, follow, listen, or just talk to me directly, definitely reach out, connect with me. I'll even give you an invite to Clubhouse. I will invite you into the club. And I think that would be great. So guys, thank you for listening. Have a great day, great month, great year, great something. And remember, number one, make the sale at any means possible, because you got to eat at the end of the day. And remember, survive out there.